Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to see you all tonight. I hope you are having an amazing week. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. You know what? As I'm seeing all over the place, we should be appreciating our teachers every day, not just during a week. But hey, you know what? I have one amazing educator with me here today, Eva Mireles. Mireles. I'm going to say it correctly. I'm so sorry. And, she is a literacy coach in San Antonio, Texas, another Texas gal in the house. And so, Eva, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited. So I want you, before we dive in to the real reason we're here tonight, tell our audience just a little bit about your journey into the education world.
Yes, so I've been in education for 18 years. I've taught grades 2nd, 3rd, and 5th, and I've been a reading specialist and instructional coach for the last 8 years. And I've just kind of developed a love for coaching teachers and helping them grow, and that's just been the most fun. And I've also recently been able in the last 3 years to help support our mentor program on my campus and support new teachers and mentors and just grow them and support them from the onset, because, the teacher burnout exodus thing is real. And so just being able to support teachers early on and grow their capacity and make sure that they start strong has been really rewarding.
Yeah. So tell me, Eva, just when you're working with new teachers, because I think oftentimes, we get in the thick of it. We get into our own routines. Sometimes we're just like, okay, new teachers, you just got to keep hanging on. What are some of the biggest needs that you see right now that our first year teachers are experiencing?
Gosh, it's multifaceted, right? So there's just a lot of needs. Some of it, I think the biggest one is them realizing that although your district and campus expectations may be for you to perform here, the reality is you're starting out and you're starting here. Like, there are going to be some things that you are going to be really great at here, some things that you're still going to be growing at. And I think that's the hardest part because, expectation wise, the state doesn't care, the district doesn't care, and the parents definitely don't care. They just want you to come in almost being a veteran teacher with 1 year experience, which isn't realistic, right? So I think it's managing their own expectations of themselves, while also holding that tension of, wanting them to be professionals and come in and get the job done. So it's really holding attention with them and for them, and knowing which one to kind of lean on as a coach in that moment, depending on the teacher and the circumstance.
Yeah. You talk about adding a ton of pressure, especially someone who might not feel as confident as the person sitting next to them, being a first year teacher. And you're right. Like, there's sometimes people don't care, but you have to be okay and remove any kind of stress that you're putting on yourself based on that, which can be hard.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And, man, being a mentor teacher is such a privilege and an honor. And it's one of my favorite things to do. I love seeing their excitement. So it's so fun.
Yes. Yes.
So I want to talk about the real reason we're here tonight. You grabbed my attention, and I know that this is something that a lot of instructional coaches are dealing with at this time of the year. It's past, we're past STAR testing, or for those out of in different states, your state mandated assessments, and a lot of mentalities kind of go into coast mode.
Yeah.
And STAR's over, we can just do whatever we want. But all of us as instructional coaches are going, no, you can't. And I love the post that you made, and it really was something along the lines, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that just because testing is over does not mean instruction is over.
Yes.
One, can you tell us what inspired that? Two, why is it so important that instruction is not over? And three, what are some things that coaches can do to encourage that with teachers?
Well, just like anything, right? As educators, it's from experience, right? We learn things, and so I think as a coach, it's super important to try not to forget what it's like to be a teacher and to keep those close connections with the people that you're coaching. And because also we're also burned out, like everybody's tired, right? Kids are tired, coaches are tired, teachers are tired, we're all tired. But the work needs to continue. And so what inspired that was just the idea that I wanted teachers to know. A couple of years ago, I had done another challenge. It was Finish Strong. And just the mentality this year was kind of like everyone's kind of like limping and everybody's been struggling. We've been hearing a lot on social media about behavior concerns. And then, of course, the literacy deficits are a big thing. Like there's just all these huge things. And so, but just the idea that I wanted teachers to have permission to finish strong-ish, meaning like we're not going to be able to do all the things, right? There's like a million ideas for countdowns and all these fun things that they can want to be a part of and want to do, but maybe they don't have the energy to do, right? And so a lot of times I've seen that teachers tend to be all or nothing. So they're either going to do all the things or they're going to do none of the things. And so it's like, well, what about if we meet in the middle and try to do some of the things? Just some things. And so for me, it's like, because my focus is literacy, it's like keep that quality read aloud going. And coaches can encourage teachers to do that as well by checking in with them, right? For me, it's a lot of check-ins, whether it's I send a weekly newsletter to my staff and I include like a Google form check-in. So I check in that way so they can send me like a quick note about how they're doing. But it's also just checking in and being visible on the campus and saying, how's it going? And just being available. I had a teacher recently asking me about a title that they wanted to read. Do you think this is okay? It's a short read and it'll have just enough time in the last few weeks of school to do it. I was like, perfect. And we're having those conversations. But it's also about us as coaches having realistic expectations about what teachers may be able to do. But just like with students, it's scaffolded. I think what I've seen as a coach a lot, what I've bumped up against in my coaching and being a campus leader is the idea that we want to speak about teachers as a whole, as a monolith, right? Like teachers are tired, and I just did it. All teachers, teachers don't want to do that. Teachers, and that what I saw when we went into COVID, right, was that some teachers actually did still want to learn. They still wanted to attend PDs. Some teachers did want information. Some teachers do want to engage. And so I think that's important to keep in mind because a lot of times this time of year, we might be like, oh, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to impose my ideas on them, but some teachers may be open. And so starting with those teachers is a great place. That's always my go-to, is starting with those teachers that I already have a rapport with. And then the teachers that I maybe, aren't always down for whatever I'm proposing, I put that in my information in my newsletter, and you'd be surprised who actually reads it and who actually, acts on some of those ideas. But the main thing to answer all three of your questions was it came from the idea that I'm just seeing that teachers are tired, but trying to help them hold that tension between being tired and still the kids still deserving that last few weeks of education in some way, in some form, because we don't want that summer slide is real and we complain about it a lot. And it's going to start sooner if we quit teaching sooner.
Yeah.
And then the idea that, what was the second question? I forgot.
Why is it important that we don't stop?
Well, and I just went to this is the summer slide. And it's a lot of things. One, the other part is us. I think we forget, I don't know, like, Gene Days, right? Just as an example. Gene Days are a huge way that we reward teachers on campuses. I myself can't have Gene Days all the time for a couple of reasons. I don't own that many jeans. I don't have 5 days worth of jeans. And then the second reason is because it just kind of like, the dressing down all the time kind of plays into my mindset and professionalism. And I just kind of don't want to do the things. It's another reason, like I personally didn't do countdowns in the classroom. I tried them. And then I was like, peace out. When I was counting out, I was counting the days down. And I was like, I'm out. I'm not even paying attention. So I'm just one that just needs to, that's just me though. I just needed to keep working on it. And so I think it affects teacher mentality when we coax and are just kind of like in coax mode, because we have that long principal admin list of things that they want us to do to check out. We have to muster up energy for that. We still have screeners that we have to give students, right? And if we stopped teaching, they're not going to do as well as they had maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were still prepping for that state of test assessment. And so I want my teachers to get the credit, and I want the students to show what they know on those assessments. And then also just like it affects teacher mentality and it affects student mentality, because then we're going to have behavior concerns, right? We've been hearing about it all year long about how the student behavior is out of control. It's going to get worse if we are just letting them either watch videos all the time or play games all the time. Like there's a time for that. We can plan for that.
Yeah.
There's definitely a place for that. I'm not saying don't do those things. I'm just saying do those things with intention and don't make those things be the thing that you're doing all day long, because you're the one that's going to end up paying for it later. The kids are going to pay for it because they're going to be in lax mode and maybe just not behaving as well. And then you're going to pay for it because you have to deal with those behaviors.
Yeah. And it's going to be a headache.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and something else, I cringe when we talk about state assessments, and I get it. I do understand the purpose of, accountability. I get that. But I am an advocate for removing all of the stressors on the assessment and all of the things that are at risk if we don't do well on the assessment. There's just too much placed on one assessment.
Right.
And I'm afraid that if we just are like, okay, test is done, then we've literally given the state a reason to say the star is the end all be all. And I'm like, no. We can't say that all learning is done once that star assessment's done, because then we're saying that test is everything.
Right. And we spent most of the year talking to, I know like I've had teachers ask me sooner than I would have liked to have heard the question, like, hey, do we have any resources to prep for the assessment? And so if we've been advocating for the teachers not to put that in front of kids all year long, and then we stop teaching once it's over, we're definitely saying that the only reason we come to school is to learn how to pass this assessment. And that's definitely not it, right? It's a genre that we prepare them for, because unfortunately they're going to be taking some form of standardized test, right? High school, college, middle school, it doesn't matter. It's going to keep coming to, but it's not the only form of learning that is going to happen. And so that shouldn't be the only thing that we're putting in front of our students or our major focus all of the time.
And that's one thing that I want teachers, principals, coaches, everyone just to see, like, if we say learning's done after standardized testing, we have immediately put all our eggs in one basket. And to me, that's detrimental to learning. Now,
and also it's detrimental to our work as coaches, because if that's all the teachers are working towards as well, then they really are done. And they really are done.
Yeah. Well, and it reminds me, especially when I first started coaching, no one really wanted my help until it was observation season. And they were like, hey, will you come help me with, a plan for my observation? And I'm like, what? That's the only time you want me? You're saying you're only going to do your best on this one day. And so I think it kind of gets into that same mindset. It's a danger zone.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, I agree. And that's something that I talked about also in the podcast series I did about finishing Strongish. And in my workshop was, we don't necessarily want to sit there and say, like, we only come to school to learn to pass a test, because also, I hate to say this, if anybody from STAR's listening, like, it's not infallible, right? It's not, they're always changing it. The target for passing is changing. The questions are changing. The format is changing. It's always changing. And so if we're only teaching for this ever moving target, we're never going to feel like the students attained the knowledge they needed to attain, or that we actually did our jobs.
Yeah. Ooh, true statement. Like, we need to put that on a t-shirt. We need that on a t-shirt. Now, here is a question for you. And this is about instructional coaches. So I've also heard, my colleagues, other coaches in my bubble be like, okay, it's after STAR. It's the last month of school. Teachers don't want me in their classroom. And I kind of feel like that's the same mentality. And I'm like, no. We go until the very end. So what's your insight on that? What are your thoughts? And what are some things that you wish would happen?
This is a great time to build like those co-teaching relationships that we desperately want to have at the beginning of the year. because they are tired and they're willing to do anything to have a little bit of a break right now.
Anything.
And so
Anything.
even let you into their room
Like
and
willingly. Come
go
on
teach,
in.
yeah, and co-teach a lesson. So this is a great time for those partnerships. Being a literacy person, great time to model what a quality read aloud, would entail. Some, just to model lessons, but make it really a modeling. Like keep it a mini lesson. Don't make it a 30 to 45-minute thing, because then they're going to get busy packing up their room or whatever else they need to do, right? Like keep it a mini lesson so it's quick if you're going to model something, and then they're kind of forced to pay attention and take in some of the learning. Probably not the best time for a full-fledged coaching cycle, but maybe a mini one, right? Something small that gives them a quick win and a little taste of what working with you could be like. And then just those frequent check-ins with them, and how is it going, and keeping it friends. Some people just need accountability. I think the hardest part about being an instructional coach, a good one, is that you were probably a really highly efficient, capable, self-motivated teacher. And you didn't need anybody to come to your room. You didn't need your principal to walk the halls. You're like, I got it. I'm gonna close my door. I'm gonna do my thing. As a matter of fact, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Right. But then we are also then become the coaches that want to be invited in, and we don't understand why this person just can't do the thing. Why can't they just be self-motivated and driven like we were? And some people just aren't built that way, right? And so there's a variety of reasons that people may not necessarily want to take our help, but this is a great time to build those relationships, just like at the beginning of the year when you make yourself visible and are helpful and do the things and make those little drops in the relationship. But this is a great time to do that as well, especially if you didn't have the greatest year with the coaching that you wanted to be able to do. This is a great time to plant those seeds for the next year.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because you're more than likely going to have the same teachers next year, unless there's just some giant turnover. But whether or not they're staying or leaving, the relationship piece, like go ahead and start making those investments. And if you can give them small wins now, like you said, micro coaching cycles, now's the time to experiment. If teachers really are letting down some of their guard and are a little more eager to release control, then they're more than likely to try a new strategy, or engage in a new method of instruction or something. And so this would be the time to do it. Don't stay out of their classrooms. Get in their classrooms.
Yes, and my favorite go-to, which I hope none of my teachers are watching this, but my favorite go-to is and it's genuine when I say it, but hey, I'm working on this. Like I want to grow in this area. I'm working on this. Can I come in and try this here? Can I beta test it with you? And ideally it's someone that you've built that relationship with, or who's on the fence, because the one thing that you might get pushback on is, I'm tired. I'll try that in the fall, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe it's something that you actually want to pilot in the fall and you want to try it now. Hey, can I practice this with you, a micro coaching cycle or whatever, and see how it works and see what tweaks, and give me feedback? Because they love, usually teachers are the ones on the receiving end of feedback. And so if they can have opportunity to give somebody else feedback, that would also be great, right? So
well, and you need evidence too. Yes, you can have evidence from a book, you can have evidence from an expert, but there's nothing like evidence from your own campus, with your own kids, with your own teachers. And I think this is a great opportunity too for coaches to instill leadership qualities in other teachers. So, hey, I want the entire team to do this in the fall or to try it. I need your help. And so you're automatically positioning them in a leadership role to advocate for something new or to be the leader in implementing something. And our teachers need more of that. They need to have their cups filled tremendously.
yes, definitely. Yeah. So just like I think it's having that perseverance attitude and finding those. I think I think that's something that we forget as instructional coaches, that we were those teachers that we found a way, like with those students, the ones that maybe were hard to reach or behavior issues or whatever, we would, find a way in. And it's the same thing with teachers. It's trying to find that way in and being creative about it. And then just thinking about the long game, because it may not happen that first year, it may happen that second year. And you actually don't know that you are making those inroads. And then maybe by year 3, you're like, oh, you have someone that wants to be coached by you.
Yeah.
So
here is a question that is on a lot of instructional coaches' minds throughout the entire year, and it centers around crucial conversations. I have a colleague that is an instructional leader, and they were talking how there were some individuals on their team that were already showing movies, and we still have a month to go. And he was just like, I am now going to have to talk to these people about why are we already showing Shrek in a world geography class?
Oh, okay.
Like one of those situations. And so if a coach is experiencing that right now, because I would never say a coach should not be the one who holds people accountable. That's the role of admin. But how could a coach engage in a conversation with that educator to maybe motivate them to try some other things besides watching a movie?
I think it's leading with curiosity. I mean, I think just the question that was asked right now is a great question, depending on the tone that we choose to use, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference behind talking to the colleague, to your own coaching colleague about why are they showing that right now, and talking to the teacher, the instructor about, hey, I'm just curious, like, how is that going? I've noticed that we're showing these movies. I heard you talking about it. How is that going? How are the kids acting? So because the other thing is a lot of times it's hard to get other people to see is that something maybe isn't working, right? And so if they think it's working, or it's working enough, like they can ignore whatever is happening because they have all these things to get done, then they might, right? They might not want to reconsider their practice. So first of all, we want to know, is what they're doing working for them? It's not what's best for kids. We know that already, but that person may not be moved to change their practice if they still think it's working for them, right? And maybe the goal isn't to make them completely stop showing the movie, depending on the person. Maybe it's showing it the last 5-10 minutes. Like, you know what? You could get a lot of bang, for your buck if you showed that for like ever, like miniseries, that thing. Yeah. You could do one movie for a month.
Dangle that carrot in front of the kids.
Yeah. And you just show 15 minutes at the end of class, every class. I mean, that I think also might be an easier buy-in for that instructor who does have a million things to do and not enough, because unfortunately, what happens a lot is planning periods are taken with meetings and just different things. And so that's the other piece. Well, that's why at the beginning I said it's really important for us to remember, right, what it's like. Last year, I had the opportunity to not just remember, but experience it, because the teacher shortage is real. And so I was in a 5th grade classroom for 3 months. And yeah, it's a big difference between remembering and being in it. Yep. Right? Big difference. Like, I swear the Greatest Showman, that Never Enough song played in a loop in my head.
Yep.
Played in my head. And so I think that's the other piece, because as instructional coaches, the instruction, hello, it's built into the title, is at the forefront of our mind all of the time. But they also have to worry about grades and calling this kid or this family about attendance and filling out that form because the student is absent a million times, and attendance that you forget to take and you're always called. So there are a lot of other things. And so I think the first question that the coach would probably need to ask themselves is, what's your end goal here? Right? What's your end goal here? If you're new, then you're just going to lead with curiosity and be like, why is this the practice? Like, and does it work for you? And maybe this isn't your year to bring that up because you're new and they don't know you, and they don't, depending on how the year's gone for you there. Right.
Yep.
But if you have a rapport with them and you can feel like you can have that private conversation, then I would lean towards that. I'm not one to shy away from those crucial conversations, but I am one to try to decipher what's my end goal. Because if my end goal is to change them, then it's not, there's no point in having that conversation because I haven't earned the right to have that influence on them yet. If my goal is to try to maybe make a little inroads to impact a little bit of their practice, then maybe my goal isn't to get them to stop completely showing it. Maybe it's just getting them to mini series it so that we're not showing the whole thing the whole time. And then again, just it depends on what kind of year that teacher has had, right? Has that been a behavior year where all the kids and those kids are now just quiet now that they're watching the movie, which I highly doubt. I mean, let's just be honest. Students these days, a lot of times are not quiet in front of the TV because it's usually background noise at home. So that's why I had said before, like, is it even working? Is it doing what they want? Because if it's not doing what they want, then you can get them to rethink it. But just thinking about what's your end goal. First, what's the best place to have that conversation? Is that a private or a team conversation? And then where can you give in a little bit? Because if your end goal is to get rid of the movie completely, well, that might not be a realistic goal.
Eva, that like everything you just said was gold. And I was sitting here thinking, I want you to be my coach. Because you're right. We have to ask questions. We go in a state of curiosity, not any kind of assumptions. We can't make assumptions or accusations. And I love how you not only said, how is it working for you, but you also said, how's it working for the kids? Yeah. So that's going to get the teacher reflecting, well, they're just putting on each other's makeup and acting a hot mess. Right. But then I also loved, and this was a hard lesson for me to learn. It took me a couple of years as a coach before it finally knocked in the head. My way's not always the best way. And it's not the only way.
Yes.
And like you said, sometimes it's not about just getting them to ditch the movie altogether. Come to a compromise because, again, you don't know what they're going through in that moment. And
I had a year. Sorry about that. I had a year where I had a collab teacher, because I taught collab, who did something completely different with the movie. And this is just an idea to put out there. We were reading Holes, and they were a behavior class. And it was not going to work to say, well, watch the movie at the end of reading the book. So he would figure out where we had read to. And then on Friday, we watched to that part in the movie. And so still, that it was not an end of the year thing and the goal wasn't that, but it definitely was the carrot that kept some of the students, other kids that were in the book regardless of the movie, but some of the students, it kept them engaged. And so just a different way to think about that, because I know sometimes we just want to completely ditch the videos, but there is a time to use them and different ways to use them. But again, that required me to be open to somebody else's practice, because that was not how we would compare movies. We would compare movies at the end, which makes no sense really if you think about it, because by the end, the book has been so long, the movie's so long, and which part are they supposed to compare anyway?
Yeah, really true. Just all of it.
Just all of it. The whole thing.
No, I think that's great. And it took me a while, but man, the quickest way to ruin a relationship between a coach and a teacher is to be like, my way's the only way. Mm-hmm. And you the teacher is the expert. You're positioning the teacher as the expert. And sometimes they just need a little grace too.
Yes. And I think the key to being a good coach is holding the tension between the two.
Yeah. It's a different balance for different people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You find it. You do find it. So Eva, in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week, I have a final question for you. Who is the teacher in your life, whether past or present, that just has moved your life, has inspired you, made you a better person or teacher? Who's that person that comes to mind for you?
It's funny that you should mention that, because this week on my podcast, the Reading Teachers Playbook, I was just talking about how our experiences in the classroom as students impact our teaching. Mm-hmm. And I talked about, there was two teachers, but one that specific that I talked about was Miss Newman, who was my high school physical science teacher when I was a sophomore. I had struggled in school and was technically a year behind my peers in several classes. But that's just the way it was. That's just what I thought it was. That's just the way it was. That's the labels the undiagnosed labels that I had, just, slow learner. And I had asked her for help in class, and she's like, basically, you're a hot mess, but didn't say those words, right? Like, we need more time. And so I happened to take the bus. And so I would come in the mornings, a couple of times to her class and a couple of times a week to another teacher. But that was the year, then getting that support, that extra help, and then seeing how it helped me to learn things, right? Like how I could learn, I could affect change. Like, some of this was not based solely on what my brain capacity came with. I could grow it. So, she was doing a lot of like growth mindset work before it was called growth mindset, right? And it just really put me on a trajectory, because after I was able to do that and get good grades, I then, signed up for summer school. I got caught up to my peers. And then it really, I feel, affects how I just do life in general. Like, usually if whatever it is, I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And it was in that little incubator that I learned that I could figure things out. I could learn things. I could ask for help. I could get support. I could grow my own capacity, and I could, make those inroads. And it really just has affected a lot of things. I mean, even my own kids, like Summer's doing Khan's Academy, which they hated, right? So, but then when they went to college and had professors that maybe didn't teach everything great, where did they go before their lectures? They went to Khan Academy. I taught them that they could also affect change and learn things on their own, and then, go to class and be equipped. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. What's her, Miss Newman? Miss Newman.
Don't ask me her first name. I don't remember. I was a sophomore. It was a long time ago.
Hey, but you know what? She's made an impact, and that has also now impacted other children as well. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Eva, so much for joining me tonight. Where can our audience members find you?
So my favorite place to hang out on social media is Instagram, and I'm at Miss Eva Mireles there. I'm also in my podcast, The Reading Teacher's Playbook, that comes out weekly. And then just online at my website, www.evamireles.com. I am a literacy consultant also. And so I work with schools, primarily supporting upper elementary teachers, just because that they have my heart with all the things that they're up against when growing, below level readers, on level readers, and trying to get them all to pass that state assessment. So
absolutely. Well, I'm going to put all of your information in our show notes. So viewers, I want you to go check out her website. Definitely check out the podcast. And anyone who's looking for a consultant, someone to come in and work with you on your campus. Because we know that right now, a lot of our teachers are struggling with the battle of literacy instruction right now. So thank you so much, Eva, for joining us. And until next time, everyone, we will see you later.
Thank you.